Gentleman yields. Gentlelady from Georgia
I reserve.
reserves. Gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I do agree with the ranking member that all U.S. states and territories already criminalize misuse of less than lethal devices through existing assault and battery laws. And 42 states have explicit statutory definitions for less than lethal devices. And of those 42 states, 34 already prohibit possession by violent felons and domestic abusers, impose age restrictions, and impose criminal penalties for misuse. Several states even require permits or licenses or background check to purchase or possess these devices. So this is not something that the state legislatures aren't aware of. As a matter of fact, I've said before, I think that there may be some state legislatures that will react to the legislation before us today and possibly come up with other items that states have already put in place that probably will support law enforcement in this area. So suggestions that the bill will put these devices in the hands of violent felons or the general public, I think are blown way out of proportion, and that H.R. 2189 preserves state regulation on these devices. It does not weaken existing safeguards against misuse, and I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Lady from Georgia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I now yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Georgia, Representative Johnson.
Gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Johnson, is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, and I rise in opposition to this bill because it would make us less safe. Police already have access to less than lethal weapons like tasers, so they don't need a change in the law. That's not an excuse for changing the law. And this bill expands access to dangerous, prohibited individuals by stripping away federal safeguards. Tasers may not shoot bullets, but they are still dangerous in the wrong hands. And this bill would mean that anyone can buy them without a background check, including people convicted of serious violent crimes and including domestic abusers with restraining orders against them. This bill would also eliminate serialization, making these dangerous devices untraceable. H.R. 2189 is a reckless expansion of the gun industry. Because we all care about public safety, I urge my colleagues to stand with me and my colleagues in opposition to this dangerous piece of legislation, and with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Lady from Georgia is reserves. Gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
I also, Mr. Speaker, will reserve.
Gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. Lady from Georgia.
I'd like to yield 1 more minute to the Representative Frost from Florida.
Gentleman from Florida is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. You know, when I first heard about this bill, I thought it was very interesting that my Republican colleagues had this newfound conviction in helping to prevent law enforcement, doing bad things to people and working to de-escalate law enforcement. I mean, I remember, I am someone who has been a victim of the abuse of law enforcement, and I just haven't heard my colleagues ever talk about it. And so I came at this bill skeptically and looked at it, and it turns out the bill itself was pretty much written by a corporation, Axon, that wants to sell a new type of taser. Let's be clear with everyone. You can buy a taser right now. And everyone watching, you can go online and look at the fact that you can buy it on Amazon, you can buy a taser right now. But this has to do with new technology that uses gunpowder. This is the reason the ATF decided to regulate this years ago. And so this doesn't have to do with de-escalating law enforcement, which has tasers in all 50 states. This has to do with selling more weapons and firearms. And I encourage my colleagues to vote no.
Gentleman yields. Lady from Georgia, reserve.
I reserve.
Gentleman from Wisconsin, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just remind the members, we have 22 Democrat co-sponsors on this bill. And I'm sure that those members are hearing from their own local law enforcement. I'm sure they're hearing from their chiefs of police. I'm sure they're hearing from their sheriffs. I'm sure that they're hearing from some private security firms that want to be able to access this technology that's been there for some time, has been proven to be a de-escalator in these very tense situations that law enforcement find themselves in. So I'll just say, Wisconsin, my state, defines deadly force in its use of force policy as the intentional use of a firearm or other instrument that creates a high probability of death or great bodily harm. So that is what we're trying to overcome, is this definition that does not fit this new technology. Wisconsin already regulates the use of tasers and stun guns at the state level. You must be 18 plus to own a stun gun or taser, and you must be 21 and possess a valid concealed carry permit to carry in the public. So this is not going to be unchecked. There are absolutely going to be legislatures that will revisit this. And it's currently felony to carry a stun gun or taser in public without a valid permit. And it's illegal to possess stun guns or tasers for those who had prior felony convictions. So a lot of this has already been thought out. It's law enforcement that thinks about these items each and every day. It's those in leadership positions that think about these items. And we're responding to that. That's simply what we're doing here. So once again, I think it's a great bill. I hope that members support it. It sounds like it's going to be what I would expect a solid bipartisan vote today. And I will reserve.
Gentleman reserves. The lady from Georgia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from California, Representative Kamala Gerdov.
The lady from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I rise today in strong opposition to H.R. 2189. Let's get honest about what this bill does and doesn't do. It does not require training, it does not set standards, it does not improve accountability, and it does not apply only to law enforcement. It does carve out a sweeping exemption in our federal firearms laws and makes it easier for dangerous people to access dangerous weapons with fewer safeguards. So, you said, oh, supporters keep saying this bill is about helping law enforcement, but if it were true, the bill would mention law enforcement, and it doesn't. Law enforcement agencies already have the ability to procure less lethal tools and are already exempt from many federal firearm requirements. Let's talk about who opposes this bill. It is opposed by Brady, Everytown for Gun Safety, Giffords, Newtown Action Alliance, Sandy Hook Promise, Jewish Women's International, Catholics for Family Peace, Illinois Accountability Initiative, Just Solutions, Legal Momentum, and the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
Lady's time's expired.
I reserve.
Lady from Georgia reserves. Gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
I would just inquire how much time we have left.
Gentleman has 5 minutes remaining. The lady from Georgia has 1.5 minutes.
So, Mr. Speaker, I have no further speakers at this point, so I will reserve.
Gentleman reserves. The lady from Georgia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have no more speakers, and I'm ready to close.
The lady's prepared to close. The gentleman from Wisconsin also is prepared to close.
We're prepared to close, Speaker.
The lady from Georgia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, H.R. 2189 does nothing to help law enforcement who already use these weapons in all 50 states. It does not provide any new tools or training that would reduce police shootings or promote the safety of officers or the public. Instead, it makes dangerous weapons widely available to everyone, including those who should not have them, and it allows those weapons to be untraceable, undetectable by equipment, and sold to anyone without a background check. This bill is especially dangerous for those experiencing domestic violence, since this bill provides easy legal access to weapons that are designed to control and incapacitate their target and can be deadly. Groups that combat domestic violence and gun violence and who support public safety all oppose this legislation. I ask unanimous consent to submit these letters into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. Democrats will continue to support law enforcement innovation and the adoption of tools that keep everyone safer, but we must oppose this misguided legislation that does not promote innovation or de-escalation and will only put our law enforcement and those experiencing domestic abuse and others in danger. Thank you, and I yield.
Gentlelady from Georgia yields. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized to close.
Mr. Speaker, can I first ask unanimous consent to enter the CBO score into the record?
Without objection.
The bill. Mr. Speaker, I'm also prepared to close. I'd just like to spend what time I have left responding to a few points made by my colleagues. First of all, the U.S. states and territories already criminalize the misuse of less lethal devices through existing assault and battery laws. 34 states also restrict possession by violent felons and domestic abusers. And let me repeat that. It is illegal for violent felons and domestic abusers to own or misuse less lethal devices. Our bill does not change that. H.R. 2189 preserves state regulation and, in fact, may invite state legislatures to adjust their statutes to harmonize with federal law. And second, the bill will not create ghost guns or other unregulated firearms. The 5-part test in this bill would sufficiently protect against deregulation, and any product submitted to ATF for classification will be scrutinized under the ATF's existing classification process. There is no loophole. This fear-mongering by colleagues on the other side of the aisle this morning is nothing more than that. And finally, police do, in fact, have difficulty obtaining these devices. State and local police departments in states like California, New York, and Texas will not buy the newest taser models due to the increased liability. This is not some hypothetical. Unless we make this change, state and local police departments will have to settle for weaker, less accurate taser models due to this misclassification. I yield the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. On the judiciary has expired. The chair now recognizes the Committee on Ways and Means, the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Smith, and the gentleman from California, Mr. Thompson, for 15 minutes. The gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Smith, is now recognized.